a conversation about mental health today and get to center the voices of Black women and femmes. Shaniqua from Black Women in Motion is about to jump on and join us for this conversation, which I'm so super excited about. Hey, Emily. Okay. So Shaniqua was going to send a request, and then we'll start the conversation. Hi, Jenny. Hey.
Wow,
How are you doing?
good.
I'm so excited to talk to you. It's been a hot minute.
It has, but we've been working, girl.
Shaniqua was actually an alumni from Adornment Stories pilot last year. So I think it's been a while, since I seen you last, and so much has happened since then. So I'm excited that we get a chance to catch up. I would love to actually start there a little bit. What have you been up to in the past few months?
A lot. So I was finishing up my school year, but I also was working with Delta Family Resource Center. I was working with the after school program, but also over the summer we had like a conversation entitled Black is the New Black. We were just talking about Blackness in the city, because it was particularly geared towards Black youth and connected to another anti-Black part of the anti-Black racist unit for the Lori program that they have for Black youth. So I was helping with organizing that, and then we're going to get into this later, or we can get now in terms of traveling. My friend and I started organizing a travel initiative for Black undergraduate students to travel across the African diaspora called Freestyling Quest. And it's directed towards, we started in Ghana, because last year we went for a conference in Ghana, and we decided, this is something that we can definitely do. We have some ideas around it. So this year we actually got to officially launch it. It was great. So I was traveling a bit. And then also working with Black Women in Motion as a program manager has been awesome. Our Black Peer Education Network has been great. Monica's great. Our team is great. So I've been busy.
For those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about Black Women in Motion, just what y'all do?
Yeah, so
just how it got started.
So Black Women in Motion started in 2013 by Monica Samuel, our executive director, for a group like empowering young women, but particularly around empowering young women surrounding like agency over their bodies and dismantling rape and rape culture. A few years ago, I was on as a program facilitator, and we had something similar to our Black Peer Education Network, where we had a group of youth that came on and worked with us, and we did workshops surrounding topics like that relate to us in terms of anti-oppression, LGBTQ rights, and media literacy and with the focus in literacy surrounding like dismantling rape and rape culture.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we're doing. And we have the Black Peer Education Network, where we have a group of amazing women that have been with us doing workshops surrounding similar things. So we're preparing for our conference in December.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, Weekend Against Rape and Rape Culture. This means war. So that's also a huge part of what we do. And it's about Black women empowerment. It's about understanding more about like how these different kind of things, like in terms of white supremacy surrounding rape and rape culture, how that can permeate in our communities and what that looks like for us in terms of learning and unlearning the ways that we as Black women like see and view our bodies, where you're thinking about colonialism and white supremacy and how these things kind of are attached certain things on our bodies. So that's a little bit about what Black Women in Motion bought. I hope I made Monica proud. Okay. But that is, I joined, I went to the This Means Work conference and automatically was like, I have to be involved in this. It's amazing having had.
Oh, Monica said yes. Yes, you
okay,
did.
Great. But I went to my first, This Means, my friend Tiffany, shout out to Tiffany. She invited me to the conference and I went, and this was off the cusp of me learning more about like autonomy over my body and what that means. And just like experiencing sexual violence, but also love you too. Experiencing sexual violence, but also what am I trying to say? Yeah, learning more about like taking agency over my body, experiencing sexual violence, but also like taking in the fact of the little ways like my entire life I have been sexualized and how that works in terms of the intersections of being a Black woman.
Yeah.
And, as we see with the, trigger warning, the R. Kelly situation, how oftentimes Black women are not believed when they talk about experiencing sexual violence. And the statistics are staggering. And then on top of that, I know too many people, more than one is too many. I know too many people who've experienced sexual violence, and the onus be on them to do the healing because no one believes them. So it's great to be a part of an organization that believes survivors.
For sure. And that brings us to our topic. I think that it's so important that we continue to create spaces. Hi, Lauren, for Black women and femmes. Spaces like the ones in Black Women in Motion, like the ones with Adornment Stories, where we get to talk about the ways that some of these experiences are unique to us, And when we're thinking about mental health, how dialogues around mental health and how dialogues around survivors are unique to our experiences of the ways that Blackness and womanhood and femme identities intersect in a very particular way that impacts us. Because I feel like what you're saying around like not being believed is the ways that anti-Blackness rolls into that and particularly impacts us and what our experiences are. And I would love to hear from you what your understanding has been around mental health. What has that looked like, and how has that I don't know, was mental health something that you talked about prior to? Was it introduced to you younger? Is it something you've had to find as you've grown in age? What is your definition currently of mental health?
So currently it's much different than what it was before, because before it was pretty much non-existent. It was just feelings that I really didn't understand in terms of like, why is my normal different from other people's normal, I guess you can say. When I was a kid, I remember having one of my, I think it's like my grade 3 teacher telling me, like, Shaniqua, you're like Chicken Little, you're always acting like the sky is falling, because maybe I was always like, oh my gosh, like freaking out or whatever the case may be. In high school, it was the same thing, just like these different kind of emotional outbursts and stuff like that. And when I started university, that's when things started to get like really, really serious. And the feelings I was having, like I really couldn't understand it. I couldn't put a name to it. But because of the spaces I was in, shout out to UPSA, New York United Black Students Alliance, shout out to Beautiful We, the Black Women group that came out of UPSA and from CAMBA, from Center for Women and Trans People at the time. Because of like in terms of who created it, but in terms of spaces like that, that's where I was able to learn more about like what mental health is. And now my understanding of mental health is just as important as my physical health. And mental health is connected to my holistic health in terms of emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical well-being, again, and like my mental well-being. So it's my health. I guess like that's the way I kind of started to see it, and like in terms of how I need to take care of it. And how I need to like understand how my mental illness can affect my mental health, because everybody has mental health. Right? And stress can affect your mental health and make it difficult or whatever. But for some people, they're able to get over that stress or organize themselves and they're good. For me, I like my anxiety does not allow. It's really difficult for me to just be like, okay, I've organized myself and whatever. I'm stressing about the organizing. I'm stressing about like all the different things that come with it. So I've had to do a lot of work and a lot of learning in how, like, what is my new normal, because I didn't know what I was dealing with. And then when I did, I'm like, okay, how do I deal with this? And it took a lot of work that I'm still doing now, that I'm still like learning and unlearning now. Patience, you know, being kinder to myself. A lot of times, you know, you go to circles, be kind to yourself. But in terms of putting it into practice, it's difficult, because your mind is like, my mind, I should say, is running like a mile a minute in terms of all the different things that are happening in a moment. Right? And sometimes you talk about it and people, it's like, sometimes you feel like, and that could be a part of the anxiety too, people actually believing that like you may have anxiety, and that like, because of the fact that I can do things, because of the fact that I can speak or articulate what it is that I'm feeling, that the feelings are not entirely like, they're kind of just like, you can get over it, you're strong. But for being a Black woman, that's the first thing that I learned in terms of the women that have been around me, is to be strong. And then when I wasn't that even affected my mental health more, because I'm like, why am I not this way? Why am I not this strong Black woman in terms of the stereotypes that of Black women, of how they're supposed to be? How come I can't just endure and do all the things in terms of organizing, but also in terms of being a part of student stuff or whatever, but also do my schoolwork? Like, why can't I do it all? You know? And that being a huge factor of affecting my mental health, because it was just like equating myself to my work, and literally like not feeling enough if I couldn't show up in the ways, but then taking on too much. And that showing up in so many different unhealthy and ways.
For sure. And I think those narratives that you're talking about around strong Black women narratives are so dangerous, but they're fed to us so young, right? So it becomes this deep self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways, of like this idea that like, because I think I have to be strong, I try to pretend I'm stronger than I actually feel. And something that I've been thinking about recently in life is this way that like I have related my strength to my lovability. Like, am I more loved if I can carry all this load?
Being a martyr, almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like becoming a martyr in the sense of like, I'm doing it not because it feels good or because it's fulfilling or because it's a way of loving myself, but this idea of like, I'm doing it because I feel like I have to and there are no other choices. And it's similar to you, this coming to terms with and understanding the ways in which some of my traumas have impacted me, and then how that has manifested in my anxiety and what anxiety is, because I didn't know what anxiety was for a long time. And I remember learning about it and being like, oh, this sounds accurate. This sounds like this experience I'm having, you know? And I feel like, just like listening to what you're saying, it as Adia just said, it's so relatable to what the experience I think many of us are having, is realizing that we've been fed this story about who we should be and what Black womanhood looks like. And most of us are like, I can't do that. Like, it's not a realistic request. I'm curious from you. Do you have a routine or a regimen or anything that you do right now in your life to create mental wellness that feels conducive? Like, what does that look like for you in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I want to add on to what you're saying before I answer this question.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing about it is how we are affirmed, right? Because affirmations are important. I think this is something that I literally realized on Sunday at Black in Motion. We had a learning cafe talking about healing trauma through arts. It was amazing. And it was done by two of our Black peer education network folks, Shakura and Khadijah. Shout out to y'all. You did an amazing job. And I went to like our decompression room and was speaking with our self-care person. And it was just like how we are affirmed by the people around us is also by our strength, right? So like, because we understand Black women to be strong, to be courageous, to be brave, to be all this kind of stuff, we don't really get affirmation outside of that. You know, like a lot of the things that I was doing was because I'm supposed to be doing it, right? So no shade, I love all my cousins. I grew up around a whole bunch of dudes, you know, but there are ways in which that I saw the men in my life be affirmed, you know, and you see that nowadays in a lot of ways. But for me, it was like, okay, well, you're supposed to be doing this, you know, and that step of the affirmation is just kind of a gift, because it's like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and you don't really get affirmed in like your weak points and your strong points, and like throughout the spectrum of like who you are as an individual. You only get affirmed in the ways that people recognize Black women to be. And that's why stereotypes of Black women are really dangerous in terms of, again, being strong, and being able to carry, being a martyr for the, you know, like all that kind of stuff. And another connection that I've made, like even how we relate to it. Okay, so I'm a bigger person, right? And a lot of times, you know, people make comments about your body and stuff like that. And it's just like, a part of the reason why I may look like this in terms of all your comments, which are not needed, thank you very much, but a part of the reason why I am here is because I have eaten myself emotionally to this place. I've always, let me start off with the fact that I've always been a chubby kid, a bigger person or whatever, and have grown to embrace and love myself. It was hard growing up and was bullied for that and whatever, but I'm sweet, I don't care. But in terms of like how you internalize things, right? So like, you're trying to be strong and strong and strong, and then you're talking about, I'm going to connect it to what you're asking. You're talking about how you deal with things. How did we see the way that people dealt with things when we were growing up? Like the Adornment Stories. But in terms of adornment, I know, like, I remember seeing knowing my aunts went through a lot in raising us and stuff like that, but also how they took moments in time to take care of themselves, which is what I took up in certain ways in terms of like, you know, hair, makeup, you know, nails, clothes. That's how you seen, you know, and that's what oftentimes is portrayed in terms of what is a proper self-care. I'm gonna go and like buy all these things, but then a part of self-care is also like this: you need a budget. You can't overspend your money, because then something else is gonna fall through, and then you're gonna be more anxious about it and feel all these negative things and have this negative self-talk for yourself. And that was a part that, like, and I'm connecting to that directly in the fact that, you know, we, like, in terms of like the unhealthy coping mechanisms that I have before, because I feel like before I talk about the healthy ones, I need to say where I'm coming from.
Yeah, for sure.
So my unhealthy coping mechanisms look like overspending, as I had just mentioned, stress eating, and this is for me. You know, like, I'm not saying that being a fat person or anything like that is bad. Your body is your body, and love yourself. I'm just saying in terms of me and like how I took things in, is that I'm an emotional eater, right? And that stems from middle school. You know, that's where these things are rooted. I, at a point in time, was drinking a bit more than normal. I would find every single distraction to remove my mind off of what I was actually dealing with. I would have, my grades weren't great, because again, I was distracted and wasn't focusing on the things that didn't make, you know, me feel good, because I wanted that instant gratification. And, you know, like a lack of accountability that I was having for myself in terms of like, not only how I was treating myself, but how I might have been treating others, in terms of having kind of like a entitlement when I have like an emotional outburst to other people, and just be like, well, you know, this is what I'm dealing with, but that's not always fair. And again, in terms of my journey, I realized like that's not necessarily the road I want to go down. So just in recognizing these different things that are things that I've been dealing with and that I've seen my entire life, and it just being so polarized when I started university and when I was in university, and just it just came out like fire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you're saying that the unhealthy coping mechanism that you always had, you feel like in university you really were able to see that
Yeah,
because of the
they
intensity.
were
Okay.
so they
Mm-hmm.
were so polarized when
Mm-hmm.
I was in university, because it was like, or while, like, I'm still in university and finishing up, but um it was so polarized then because it was like so magnified in that moment with the different
Mm-hmm.
stressors,
Mm-hmm.
um and like being in a place where I'm learning also all these amazing things in terms of like my community and how to unpack and unlearn and relearn healthy things, but also the demand of like a white supremacist institution
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
on on my body, not only within like my classroom, but also even within the things that I was involved in, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
automatically again being like becoming this martyr, like, and these expectations and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that people may have.
Mm-hmm.
Now what it looks like is being accountable to myself and like just being really patient and kind with myself. It looks like forgiving myself for a lot of the moments where I might have faltered in ways that did not support me in the ways that I needed. You know, I wasn't in
Yeah.
terms of like being there for myself, because I was very good at being there for others, but
Mm-hmm.
not good at being there for myself. So a part of a part of that. Okay, I got a random text talking about, hi, it's Sarah from the Conservative Party. No, Sarah. No, no, Sarah,
No,
please. No, 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 not today.
not
Okay?
today, not ever.
No. Not while I'm talking about mental health, they're gonna come and stress mine. No. But in terms of yeah, so it was just being more patient with myself, being more kind to myself in real ways, not
Yeah.
just like saying it, but just like giving myself time, giving
Mm-hmm.
myself more time if I needed it, being okay with
Mm-hmm.
my new normal in terms of the fact that I am not like, I cannot do like everybody
Mm-hmm.
else, and I cannot
Mm-hmm.
put out like everybody else or how I was doing it before, because my body was literally shutting down. I was sick all
Yeah.
the time. I
Mm-hmm.
was gaining and losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was getting like serious infections. My stomach was never okay. I was grinding my teeth. These are the things that the ways that my anxiety manifested,
Mm-hmm.
outside of, because of like, because of the things that were happening around me. So one of my wake up call was last year at the beginning of, no, in April of last year. I got diagnosed with pre-diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
meaning I'm just like a few blood sugar levels away from being entirely diabetic. And
Mm-hmm.
that was really scary to me because diabetes runs in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a huge wake up call, because I'm like, I didn't even take in my body. I didn't even think
Mm-hmm.
about what was happening to my body in some ways, because you think, you know, your body's just going to carry you no matter what you put it through.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was a huge wake up call. So I was just like, I really have to start taking care of myself,
Mm-hmm.
because it was my mental health that was affecting my physical health and affecting my
Mm-hmm.
emotional health and all that kind of stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, diet and exercise and all that kind of stuff. I ate everything that I wanted, but I just took the necessary steps to make the necessary changes.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, like starting a routine of writing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
mind dumping, writing things down, and just like removing any shame of guilt of whoever told me that I couldn't write or say I'm not a good writer. Just removing that and like putting my thoughts down in a book, you know, looking, connecting more spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
being connected more spiritually. Um, for me, like I'm all over the place when it comes to that. Like I have my crystals, I have my sage, you know,
Mm-hmm.
clear my space. I got my Florida water,
Mm-hmm.
but I've also like definitely, you know, like just spent like praying, like more time meditating,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, and just like more practicing more mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Moving my body definitely helps, because I dealt with, again, a lot of the things were held in my body. So my neck and my shoulders were hurting, my back was hurting. So
Yeah.
moving my body in ways that would release those things,
Yeah.
and just being kinder to my body. you know, because in terms of, because it's important, I think it's important to recognize where the things sit, right? Like where your mental health may sit. For me, I feel it in my body before I feel it in my head.
Yeah.
That's why I was getting sick all the time. My stomach wasn't okay. I was grinding my teeth. So I'm like, because of the way because I was becoming more in tune with my body and not like separating it, again, seeing my health as holistic.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I have to make all these things interconnect to properly take care of myself.
Yeah.
So the eating better, the adding more like herbal teas and stuff like that, and adding like essential oils in terms of like aromatherapy, and just like maybe going for walks to clear my head. Speaking with, you know, chosen family, speaking with family, speaking with elders that I may have access to that can say in whatever way that they know how, things that really do connect with me. And just rest.
Yeah.
Rest, like actually sit my ass down. And just really wanting, because my whole thing is like, I want to be free, right?
Yeah.
And a part of being free for me has to do with not only being able to like dress and wear what I want, because that started first for me, but also just being able to like not hold on to things, learning to let go, removing, recognizing like the traumas that I've dealt with, but moving past that, doing the healing of my inner child, like thinking, you know, I'm really connected with the Sankofa symbol, you know, reach back and get it. Because it's like, look at your past to help your future. And that's what a lot of this has been for me, looking.
It sounds like it. It sounds like that has been your recipe for success. It sounds like you've looked at a lot of, because when you started out, when you're listing, it sounds like you looked at a lot of your past and a lot of what was offered to you as coping mechanisms and what was given to you as coping mechanisms. And it sounds like you've really been on a journey of refining what was given to you to figure out what to keep, but also to find new things and to pull on new inspiration and new knowledge in terms of building routine and recipe. And it sounds like you have, based on what I'm hearing, some rituals that you've implemented into your life that seems like it's been transformative. I'm curious, for folks who are listening, particularly from the perspective of Black women in motion, but also from your own personal journey, if you could give a tip to a Black woman or femme who's wanting to do some of that, wanting to look back at some of their past behaviors to figure out how to refine their routine, to figure out what will actually be sustainable and work for them. What are some things that you like did? How did you figure out how to do that for yourself? If you can just offer up a tip or, you know, anything that folks can walk away with them.
Well, I think like when I was reading the question before, you're talking about like finding those like safe spaces. So for me, again, when I was dealing with all the things before, social media really did help in the sense that I was able to curate it to look like me, and represent me and like what I need in that moment. So like I used to have like a whole bunch of workout stuff on my page, but that it wasn't making me feel good because I didn't really have the energy or the push to work out.
Yeah.
You know, and like in a real way, I didn't have it in me. And like also the people who I was following didn't look like me in terms of size, in terms of like my skin color, because that matters too. Yeah. So I started like curating my social media to look like what I look like.
Yeah.
Because it made me feel like I wasn't alone. I think that I was at that time was isolating myself a lot. And I think the one takeaway that I've taken from everything is that you are not alone in whatever it is that you're feeling. You know? Chances are when you speak with other Black women, they will have similar experiences that you have, because we are in a white supremacist, colonized, whatever, everything that Bell Hooks said, that's where we at. So in terms of how we connect with ourselves as Black women, we connect with that first, because that's what we know. That's what a lot of people know. That's why the unlearning is so important. So, you know, my thing is like, whatever access you do have, like use it to your advantage. Don't be afraid to ask questions to people that you may be following, because you'd be surprised some people will actually respond to you like, I'm here, I don't mind. And yeah, it's really helpful to connect with, because if you may not be good with talking to people, you might just be able to start with these things. There's this there's other like there's podcasts that I was listening to that really helped and opened my eyes to a lot of things. Like
what podcast do you love?
Black Girl in Om, yes, and Therapy for Black Girls. Lots of amazing resources. They have like a Facebook group, and like an itinerary. The word is not itinerary. They have a list of like Black women therapists on her website. I think it's mainly like in the States, but I don't know if someone had started one in Canada. I was hearing
we have a list on the Adornment Stories website.
Okay, we'll see yourself.
Black women therapists who are Canadian.
Great.
For folks who might want that research.
Great. Big up yourself. That's great. But yeah, no. So she has all that list, and it's just like, I think sometimes when we think about knowledge and how we and information and how we get it, that we feel like it has to be so formal. But there's so much knowledge out there about what we're talking about, because there's like a awakening, right? There's a lot of Black women realizing the ways that we learn to be is unhealthy, and that we are literally dying. And in order for us to start to live and not survive, that we need to open up about what it is that we're speaking about. Now, not everyone has to come and open the floodgates in terms of about their situation, because that's not everybody's calling.
Yeah.
But the information is available. There's another Instagram page I follow called Black and Well. I think they're an online blog or magazine, and like they were doing like a wellness package thing, like a 7-day wellness thing that I actually signed up for. And it's been great. In terms of the information that they've been sharing and the way that it talks about affirmation and the reflection and stuff like that. So, like when you start looking, a lot of things will come up, and it's great to ask questions and like do your best not to isolate yourself. And if you're isolating yourself from other people around you because it's unhealthy and stuff like that, that's totally fine. But for the people that care about you, do the best you can to reach out. And again, if you're not there, social media has been a great outlet for me in terms of having these conversations and having other Black women like genuinely be like, sis, I'm here, message me, talk with me, connect with me. And that's super important. So like knowing that you're not alone, like, a lot of times where I felt alone, are times where people were seeing all the things that was on me. I didn't have to say anything, and I have people be like, are you depressed right now? I'm like, hot damn, like I done put all this makeup on my face and I have all these clothes on. But when you have people that really care and love you, they will see the stuff on you. And a lot of us have trust issues, so and I totally understand that. But again, if it's not people around you, in terms of whatever your circumstance is, making those connections online through social media is just as important, just as valid. I know a lot of times people will value physical interaction, but in terms of accessibility, not everyone has it to be there or do that, not only in a physical sense, but also in like a mental sense that can affect your physical. So, social media is a great way to connect with folks and like create a bit of like a tribe for yourself, but also that can lead into like more connections. There's community health centers, even if you feel like you want like a non-biased if you want non-biased support, unfortunately the wait lines are hectic, but there are community health centers like Women's Health and Women's Hands, Black Gray Community Health Center. And there's another one, Across Boundaries, I think is dedicated for like mental health.
Yeah, Across Boundaries, yeah.
Yeah. there are spaces that are available that you can, you know, reach out to, because maybe it's not your family, maybe it's not your friends, because you don't understand and you don't want to feel, you're afraid of feeling like belittled in a moment, but there are people out there to support you. So if it's not your friends, if it's not your family, if it's not social media, you can go to a community health center and try to get the support you need. Because if they can't help you there, they'll try, because, you know, everyone needs support, and it's very apparent when you go in these places.
I think it's a blend
able to direct you.
Yeah, I think it's a blend system, because I don't know, like for me, what has really been helpful is finding the recipe. It's a little of this, it's a little of that, you know. Sometimes it's a little bit of social, because, you know, some days it's like I'm on my couch and I want to scroll and I want to feel inspired while I scroll, you know. And some days it does mean going out into the community and finding resources and connecting with people. Sometimes it's just about really, I think, like how we curate our what's it called? What's the word online? What do we, like how we follow people, right? Like we're curating our timeline, so to speak. I think that we also can curate our life to have people in our life that inspire us and that are positive and support us, and we feel like we can be authentic with. So I feel like everything you're offering up is this like beautiful mix of anything is possible, just depending on where a person is at and what they're needing in that particular day at that particular time. And, you know, as a person who also lives with anxiety, when anxiety is high, what one can do or needs or how one can engage looks different versus when anxiety is a lower place. And it's like, oh, because I love to be in my house, to be honest with you. That's part of how that's how I deal with my anxiety, you know. So it's like when my anxiety is high, actually online spaces are really helpful spaces, versus times where I'm like, okay, I can go outside, I can deal with interacting with human beings today. So I think it really depends, and I just love that you're offering up a blend of different possibilities, because I think it is that it's just figuring out what the possibilities are. And then something that I like to say is to have a plan. I think sometimes we wait until we're in the thick of it and then try to make a decision. It's like that's often not when decision making can happen. And I have found for myself, having some type of safety plan or some type of care plan works, because it's like, okay, if I know that when I'm feeling anxious, I don't have the capacity to look some of this stuff up or to do stuff, it means that when I'm not is a time for me to put things into place, whatever that means, whether it's meal planning or whether it's just, you know, I think it really is just about figuring out how to schedule our life and plan our life in a way that is conducive to our mental wellness, and planning ahead for the fact that we know we will have moments where that we just don't feel like our best selves. And what do we do about that then? I'm curious though, you recently took a pretty long travel stint, and I would love to hear more about that, if I may ask. What prompted you to travel, and then where did you travel to? I saw a few places on your timeline.
Yeah. I'm out here.
I love it.
I want to add one more thing to what you were saying.
Yes, please do.
It's something that because I had a bit of a moment earlier, like in the summer, and I had to just remind myself who the hell I am. Because, you know, those moments
it be like that sometimes.
Stop, self. Let me show you yourself. But the self-care journey is not linear. It's not straight.
Yeah.
The reason why I mentioned all those supports is because I was in all of those places. I was in a place where I'm like, I cannot be on right now. I need to just like be in my house. And Just Living Baby was my therapist, and she was giving me everything that I needed. There were times where I was able to go into places and speak with someone. There are times where I'm like, going into places is too much. So I had to find an online support again, in terms like a online therapist support. There were times where I was saying too much to my friends, or I wasn't saying enough to my friends, or I was just like, F everybody, I'm going to do what it is that I want to do. And there's a balance for all of these things. And, you know, the negative comes with the positive. But the difference is like changing your mindset in terms of like looking at the lessons and how you're going to learn from them, how you're going to gain wisdom to help you move forward. So the self-care journey is not linear. It's not straight. It's not a straight line. It's like, okay, I'm not good. I'm going to be better. It's all over the place.
It is the mental health spectrum, right?
Yeah,
The mental health spectrum, it
yeah,
includes all of it. It includes
yeah,
feeling mentally well, feeling mentally ill, and everything in between.
yeah, 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 exactly. Okay, in terms of these trips, girl, I
I'm
traveled.
so curious. This is low key for me. I'm like, I want to hear.
Oh man, so okay, so the last, for well, no one knows other than the people who know me, but my father is from Ghana, and my mother is from Dominica.
Mm.
So I've been to Dominica many times because I'm fairly close with my mother's side. I met my father at 19, so like it's a fairly new relationship.
Yeah.
But last year I had the opportunity to go to a conference in Ghana. I'm not going to name the conference, and why I'm not going to name the conference is because it wasn't good.
Okay. Thanks for the honesty.
It wasn't good. My friend and I went, and we were just like, one day we were just in the back of in New York they call them dollar cabs. We don't have them here because Canada has all these regulations. In Canada they're called churro. And we're in the back of the churro, and we're just like, girl, what if we made our own? And we're like, yeah. So then we decided to like start planning our own conference, as I mentioned before, called Reconning Quest. Sorry. Kind of like more so like an unconference, I should say.
Yeah.
Where, okay, Albert, sorry. Someone told me Trotsky, I guess that's the name.
We learning some other extra education today. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we decided to create our own project where we brought undergraduate Black students to engage with the African diaspora, and when it comes to research in the same ways that students are always encouraged to go to China or go to Europe and all different places, and that be reputable and that be celebrated. But when it comes to the African diaspora, that not being connected with, within our research, we found out that like even at our university, we go to York, that I think one student went to South Africa, and outside of that, like there's not really much offered. So we saw a need.
Yeah.
And relate. She's in her master's doing research. I'm a history major and like really interested in research and like all that stuff as well. So we just decided to continue with this project, and we went back in December to make some connections, and it was great. A lot of, I'm gonna talk about December in a second though, because woo. But yeah, so we made a lot of connections. And then we came back. We were working, and then we were able to go back in August. So in terms of December, when you are on a particular kind of journey, whatever spiritual deity you believe in will show you your ass. So that is what. So like a lot of this traveling for me is because like I am very dedicated to dedicating my life to my community.
Yeah.
Because we need it the most. That's the long and short. Black and Indigenous folks need the most. As well as an African Indigenous person, we need this.
Yeah.
So so that's a part of the reason why we continued into traveling and doing this work. And it was just great for me in terms of being Ghanaian and being able to go there for the first time, and just like, a lot of times people feel like going to the continent, it's like this huge spiritual awakening, whatever. Maybe for some people it is. But for me, it was like home. Anytime there's a lot of Black people around, I feel at home.
Yeah.
I used to live in New York, and anytime I go to New York, I feel like I'm at home. Anytime I grew up downtown, but being in the West End, I got all these Black people around me. I feel at home. Black people make me feel at home.
Yeah.
We all over the place in terms of all this stuff. We have one big family, and we got a lot of different thoughts, feelings, whatever, but we are diverse people, and I feel at home with my people.
Yeah.
So going to Ghana was that for me. It was like I guess you can say a homecoming, to make it corny.
I love it. I'm here for the corny. Homecoming it is.
Yeah, so it's like a homecoming in the sense that like I felt normal. I felt good. I felt whole. I felt seen.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things I guess you can say was a spiritual grounding for me. Now in December,
Yeah.
like from that process, when we came back from August, we were doing, my friend Vanessa and I were doing a lot of like, you know, spiritual work, journaling and all that kind of stuff. And we were just asking to be brought on the path of where we're supposed to be in terms of our purpose, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and with that came a lot of, a lot of stuff, because we were, what was shown to us was, um, the things that we need to learn about
Yeah.
ourselves and what we need to unlearn, and like some of the ways in which that, like, as much as we are doing our best we can to do the best we can to be the best we can, that there are some things that are toxic from that are rooted in our trauma that will show up in moments when you were dealing with certain things, right?
Yeah.
So that was revealed to me in December. Like I said, my ass was shown to me, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to, you know, learn from that. So for me, traveling has been a lot of unlearning, because you know you're traveling with someone, you're with someone for a certain duration of time, different kind of like ways that you connect, different
Yeah.
kind of communication styles. And what I realized is that I don't communicate. Not even that.
That's real.
So what I realized is that as much as I talk, that I don't necessarily always communicate well or say what it is that I'm feeling, because I feel like maybe people should know, or like maybe people should know me or know who I am, or whatever the case may be, whatever that entitlement was, because of the fact that of what I've been through, of what my trauma is, or whatever the case may be, that was revealed to me. And I was like, okay, if I want to be actually better, in terms of taking care of my mental wellness, I need to look at the toxic behavior that can be also blocking me from learning, and learning of what I need to unlearn, and actually like solidify my purpose. Right.
Yeah.
So that's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a lot of what traveling to Ghana for me has been, in terms of like, yes, the project and everything we're doing, but in between, right? Because we were shown our purpose within this, and in between, when you're moving towards your purpose, there's a type of work that has to be done, and a type of shedding that has to be done that is,
I have shivers as I'm listening to you. It's so
painful.
real. Yep. Yep.
Man, Tanya,
Yep.
I cannot explain to you the pain.
Yep. 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 Sis, trust and believe. I feel you. I feel like the journey to purpose is so painful though. Like I think about myself as an artist, as an entrepreneur. Like some of the things that I've done, I'm like, y'all don't know I sat on the floor and cried though. Like, because I feel you 100 about like looking at oneself sometimes is such a painful and challenging act to really look, but like, and like to really see like what's really good, and seeing the ways that we even get in our own way, and how some of our own attitudes and perspectives and beliefs are actually the problem. Because I think that there's a culture, particularly, you know, when we're on the gram, of like what someone else is doing and how other people are getting in our way. And what is the feeling when we realize how we are getting in our own way, and how just some of the things that we feel are innate beliefs. Because even what you're saying just now about feeling like you haven't communicated, you said things, but you're not actually communicating the feelings that are deep inside, because we expect other people to know, and how those deep rooted beliefs, often from some of our childhood experiences, get in our way from actually living into the ways that we want to be present in our purpose. It's real life. I feel you 100, because yes, I have experienced it.
I was, it boxed me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It totally, I
see folks in the comments saying that they feel it 100, have similar experiences. So we in it together. We all know what it feels like to be,
we're gonna stand together. We got this.
And feel like, yes, there are tears involved in the process of, I feel like it's the process of becoming. Like there is a growing pain in choosing to really live into ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's why I mentioned freedom, because what video was I watching, and the person was saying, I think it was Nina Simone, who was talking about like she wants to be free. And for me, that, like, I'm like, when I like in taking that in, I'm like, what does freedom look like for me?
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I might not, like, because of like how white supremacy and colonialism has permeated through these spaces, I might not be free in the ways that I want to, but how am I going to create freedom?
Yeah.
In the ways that I need for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, a part of that, I'm just like, a lot of the freedom, a lot of the ways that my freedom has been restricted has been through white supremacist structures of what I'm supposed to look like, what I'm supposed to be, what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the pressures started coming from the outside, because my family, once I spoke with them about my mental health and like where I was at, surprisingly, not necessarily surprisingly, but they were fairly supportive.
Yeah.
And like, we're like, take a break if you need to from school. Don't worry about how long, just make sure that you finish, because you know you want to finish this chapter in your life to move forward. A
Yeah.
lot of great supportive things that they were like, that they said to me. I'm super thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
When those outside voices were gone, it was only me left.
Yeah.
And it was only me left saying all the terrible things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Number one, and then really having to check where my, like, how, like, my value outside of everything else, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, when if I'm choosing freedom,
Mm-hmm.
freedom does not look like me being constrained in my own body as well, like in terms of pain and stuff like that, that is
Mm-hmm.
inflicted from the structures outside that are influencing the structures that I already have to deal with on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I already
Mm-hmm.
have self-doubt. Sorry, I got a phone call. I already have self-doubt. I already have like negative self-talk. I
Mm-hmm.
already have like dealing with self-worth, dealing with self-esteem things. Like, I already have all these things that I am dealing with
Yeah.
outside of what the world actually says. And the world hates me for the most part. Actual studies talking about why Black women are, you know, the ugliest, or all this kind of foolishness. You know what I mean? So it's just like self-image issues, all that stuff. This is what I'm dealing with on top of everything else. But
Mm-hmm.
where I'm like, what I decided, I'm just like, I was firm. And again, last year when I was dealing with being diagnosed with being pre-diabetic, I was like, I choose me.
Yeah.
You know,
For
like,
sure.
I choose, I'm choosing me. I want to be free, and I want to be in the best place I can, because as much as I am a giving and loving person, I don't want to be, and this is something that, you know, I've had friends tell me a lot, like my chosen family, friend Alex, my friend Shannon, Sasha, Vanessa, a whole bunch of people. I just need to name them because they're like very
Mm-hmm.
important to me.
Mm-hmm.
That like, I cannot give from an empty place. And I was doing that
Yeah.
for a very long time, because being a strong Black woman means oftentimes you're giving when you don't have
Yeah.
anything to give, you know?
Yeah.
And seeing like my best friend Sasha cry for me,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't seeing something that she was seeing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I have to choose me. I have to choose freedom, not only for myself, but for
Mm-hmm.
those that I love.
Yeah.
And
For
I just
sure.
want to be the best person that it is, like, that I want to be. I want to do my actual best. What does my best look like?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just doing things in ways that are like best for me, in terms of like, okay, I don't learn or read as quick or do other things
Mm-hmm.
as other people do, but okay, whatever. I'm still getting me the information any way that I need to. And if I
Mm-hmm.
need to take the time, then I'm going to take the time. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to feel bad about it, because this is what my normal can look like. But making sure
Mm-hmm.
that I'm creating a structure um, that is strong enough to withstand me, um, from being preventing me from being in a place of just,
Mm-hmm.
you know, feeling constrained all the time, you know. Like,
Yeah.
at the beginning of this year, thank you, Strange. Thank you. I see you're amazing, queen. Thank you. At the beginning of this year, because of a lot of the stressors that I was dealing with, and like a lot of the things that were impact, and my anxiety being super up, I had to wear a heart monitor, because that's
Mm-hmm.
how, like, my heart was just like
Mm-hmm.
beating, and like not like it. I was terrified, and it was literally my anxiety. I don't
Yeah,
want to see where my anxiety, how far my anxiety can go. You know, because
you snap to that.
Because the teeth grinding was already painful. Like my jaw was just clicking. I didn't even realize that I was grinding my teeth until I went to the doctor. You know, and the dentist. Sorry. You know, and then I was dealing with another situation in term that was involving other people that caused me a lot of stress, and I started developing like some intense shoulder and neck pain. And I'm like, this is literally derived from my anxiety. It literally comes from my body just tensing up so much.
Yeah.
Because it is just in constant shock. And I'm like, I can't do this to myself anymore. I have to do different, because my body has taken me so far. And I do not, and you know, my body being a temple and all that, I do not want to be putting my body through anything else that it doesn't need to go through.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so in terms of my travels, these are a lot of things that came up, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
what would be your main takeaway if you could sum up all of your journey and all of your travels and have one, we're about to hit the hour mark, so if you could say this is like the one main thing that really stood out to you, what would be your main takeaway?
Oh man. Oh my God.
I know, right? It's a hard question. I know there's so many pieces.
So many pieces.
Chandra just said finding peace in the midst of chaos. I feel like that's a big deal.
Yeah, that is that. Ooh, yeah. I think for me, what I've learned is to let go and to trust.
Yeah.
I don't think people have been put in my life by chance. The people that I have in my life, the loved ones, the person I love, I don't think that they've been put in my life by chance. I take very seriously who I have around me at that in this moment, and it made me learn. And with all, like, in learning how to let go and learning how to trust, it also taught me to have gratitude and value more of like the people that I have. Because when I look back at those people that I have in my life, I'm just like, I don't even like, the way that my mind works and what I'm trying to unlearn is like, I'm like, I don't know why this person is still here.
Yeah.
I think I also learned that I can potentially push people away. So because I don't think that the person wants to be around me, or they don't want to be close to me, or whatever the case may be. So sometimes I can push people away, and I think that you know, I learned that I need to let go of those things. I learned that I need to trust the process, trust the people that I have around me, and not take for granted who is around me and what is around me, and just practicing gratitude. I think that's the one thing that I can say. Practicing gratitude. And it's not that I do it all, like, I'm still learning.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So practicing gratitude has been amazing for me. Because when I start calling out the things that I'm thankful for, I start seeing more of what it is that I already have. Oh girl, I'm a Leo too. I start seeing, you know, all the things that I have, and it helps me to know that, like, even like within myself, like beyond outside, it's like that I'm enough.
Yeah.
And that I have enough. And like, I think that's a mantra that I've been trying to carry on, and that I try to tell others, is that I'm enough, you are enough. Because, you know, everything else in this world, as Black people, will tell us that we have to be above and beyond, you know, even in Shonda Rhimes, what Papa Pope said to Olivia Pope, you know, you have to be twice as good. And I think we're in a place now where Black folks are trying to be human beings.
Yeah.
And
being able to exist in our fullness.
Being able to exist in where we are, you know, like one thing another person told me was like, not everybody are kings and queens. Some people, there has to be artists, there has to be creatives, there has to be people that are supporting, there has to be people that tell their story.
Yeah.
You know, so like in my calling and my purpose, like I'm dedicated to doing these things. And I'm just dedicated to being free and doing that. So gratitude, letting go, and trust. That's not one thing.
Yeah.
3 things. I don't follow instructions, but
it's all good. We'll take the 3. I'm gonna try something new. It just hit 8 o'clock, so we've been here for an hour. I feel like we've had a whole sermon today, and I'm here for it, and I love it. I'm gonna try to touch this button that says